Everybody, this is a update to my second installment of milling circuits in Chilipeppr designed with Eagle. If you've seen either of my previous videos, it's very easy to bring an Eagle board design into Chilipeppr so that you can mill it. World of difference for me. One of the things I did in my second installment was milled the top layer, and more importantly, I milled an SMD circuit versus a typical through-the-hole component circuit, which offered some additional challenges. Traces have to be much closer, isolation paths have to be more accurate. Now the interesting thing here is I just recently upgraded my Shipoko 2 to an X-Carve, very good update. And one of the things that I had not done was adjust the stepper motor settings for the Z axis. The X and Y stepper motor settings stay the same, so that wasn't a problem. Fortunately, the change that I had to make wasn't too far off from the original. However, there was some differences noted. And I want to point those out here because it is so critical to get those right when you're milling such fine circuits. So this circuit here was milled with all of the wrong settings, and as you can see, it still worked. This is a usable circuit. I can solder this up and put it into action if I want to. Just as a reminder, this is a Hall effect limit sensor circuit that I designed. Up here are the updated settings where I guessed on what they should be. I wasn't 100% accurate. I basically are using the Acme lead screw, which is a 12 turns per inch. So I made some assumptions from there, plugged those settings in, and I ran another mill. And what I have is a much better result. As you can see, down here there's practically no separation between these two isolation mills. Up here, there's a little more. Corners are a little better, and more importantly, although it's kind of hard to see, the paths, the isolation traces are a little bit narrower. And that's because the V-bit is now traveling into the board closer to what it originally was told to do. Down here, because my settings were wrong, everything was plunging too deep, which is why this isolation path is narrower, because a V-bit, the deeper it goes in, the wider the path is going to be. I then worked with Ray to dial those settings in and make them a little bit more accurate. They weren't substantially more accurate, but they were enough to make a little bit more of a difference, and so much so that now I'm going to stick with them. And here is that final pass. And as you can see, the big tall tale design change here, the improvement here, is you'll notice this here and this here. Well, over here, there's very little there. You know, you can clearly tell the difference, all right? Up here, yeah, there's more here than down here, but even more on the third attempt, there's a slight improvement. Like I said, this circuit is good enough, even this circuit is good enough, but dialing in those settings matters. And the reason it's going to matter even more is these traces are 16 mils. If you want to go down to 10 mils, or below, you've got to get this. You've got to get these settings right, or you'll never get there. And this is actually, it took me 4 tries to get this correct with some of my Eagle board settings. But as you can see, definitely an improvement here and here. The isolation traces are not as deep, and they're a little bit more narrow than the previous ones. Look for the places where there's just not as much space. As you can see, here and here look about the same. Still looks a little more. Very close, but nonetheless good enough. At this point, like I said, I can now go back to designing SMD circuits and milling them at home as opposed to sending them out to a board manufacturer, which will be a huge time saver for me. The thing that I'll tell you is that getting the stepper settings correct is just critical. This board here was ultimately milled at a depth of 0.065. This one here and this one here were milled at a depth of 0.07, although this one here, it was getting milled deeper than 0.07, even though that's the setting I had it at. This one here, probably a little more than 0.07, but nonetheless it was still going deeper. This one here, 0.65, made the world of difference in my opinion. Again, 0.07 or 0.065. I might even try 0.6 because the less the bit goes in, the narrower the isolation trace will be. But in any case, I'm definitely happy with this result. The only other thing I'll point out is on these two circuits, when I milled them, I ended up with an isolation trace all the way around the circuit, and when I actually milled the board out, it left those there. Now, that's not a terrible thing, but personally that adds a little bit of dimension to the board. Not sure why that didn't happen on this one. I don't recall making any changes to change that. I just pulled in the same board again. So there might have been a setting that I changed and I didn't realize it. At some point I'll try to figure out what that is. But in any case, very happy with the results, and big thanks to John and Ray for improving Chilipeppr to the point to where I can now mill SMD circuits. Hope this helps. Any questions? Let me know. Thanks.